Everyone, take your seats.
Huh?
We have a new student that'll be joining our class today.
This is Shoko Nishimiya, a sweet-natured girl who is not at all like the rest of the kids in her class. She happens to be deaf and can only communicate through writing in a notebook or with sign language. Unfortunately, Shoko's predicament also makes her a target for bullying, and that's exactly what happens in this story. Hello everyone, and welcome. My name is John Turner, and I'm so pleased you've decided to join me. Situations like this are common in the real world, particularly at school, and often make subjects for compelling storytelling. There have been movies which have tackled this issue, but few have managed to do so in a more artful way than this Japanese animated feature. Tonight, we're going to learn more about the feature in question in the form of this panel, A Silent Voice, a story of second chances. In the past, there have been some animated features which contain scenes of bullying, but A Silent Voice tackles the subject in a style which makes it stand out from others of its kind. For one thing, this movie's story is told not from Shoko's point of view, but rather from that of the bully, Shoya Ishida. A daring choice, to be sure, but it also provides the film with a perspective unlike many seen in stories like this. As the film begins, we see the teenage Shoya quit his job, close his bank account, leave money for his mother, and finally approach a bridge. His intention? To end his life forever. He almost goes through with it, only to be stopped by the sound of fireworks. For the next 20 minutes, we travel back to the past and learn what drove Shoya to this point. As a child, Shoya is seen to be a lazy, carefree ne'er-do-well who plays practical jokes on both animals and other people to stave off boredom. So when Shoko comes into his class for the first time, he isn't too pleased, especially when she asks him this.
Can we be friends?
What? You're such a freak!
From then on, Shoya antagonizes Shoko at every chance, making her days in school absolute misery.
Is that earwax? That is so gross!
Finally, a very nasty confrontation plays out between them in class. After this, Shoko transfers to a new school, and Shoya gets into serious trouble. In fact, he is cold-shouldered and bullied by his former classmates. Consequently, Shoya becomes a social outcast, refusing to look anyone in the eye. Worst of all, he is saddled with insufferable guilt over his mean-spiritedness towards Shoko. At this point, the film returns to the present, and Shoya decides to not go through with throwing away his life. It is then that he encounters Shoko again for the first time in 5 years. Over the course of the rest of the film, Shoya aspires to make amends for his past actions and become friends with Shoko after all. But his quest for redemption is anything but easy. He has to deal with some people who still hold a grudge against him, and perhaps most importantly, Shoko's damaged self-esteem. What a story! And to think that it's made for an animated feature! But that's one of the many reasons that Japanese animation stands out from American animation. If a studio like Disney were to tackle a plot such as this, it probably would be a somewhat toned-down experience. But in the Land of the Rising Sun, animation is treated as another form of telling a story, and so directors believe that nothing should be left out, particularly when it comes to dealing with mature subjects. Some of these features can be quite graphic and violent, but A Silent Voice is thankfully tame by comparison. Which is not to say that it's a family-friendly story. It's not. The target audience is a more mature one than what you would normally expect from an animated production in America. Like most animated productions, A Silent Voice contains a gallery of interesting characters. Aside from being both a coming-of-age and redemption story, it's also a character study. Naturally, both Shoya and Shoko get much of the focus, as the film primarily centers on their personalities as well as their relationship. Young Shoya is exactly as you would expect for a bully at his age: immature, cruel, mean-spirited, and unrepentant. He shows no remorse for his misdeeds and is only too eager to continue antagonizing poor Shoko, regardless of the consequences.
Cut it out, Shoya. Or would you rather have detention?
No, sir, sorry.
As a teenager, however, Shoya is a completely different person. He's a loner, a social outcast, and as mentioned, absolutely remorseful for what he has done. He's self-loathing as well. In fact, he feels he is undeserving of a second chance.
Yeah, I hate me too.
Despite these feelings, he is shown to make considerably more mature choices than he did as a child. He takes sign language classes, primarily in the hopes of one day apologizing for all he did to Shoko. Though his intentions are nothing but honorable, he does on occasion screw up.
Is my voice weird?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't... your voice sounds totally okay.
Yet even when it seems as though he has blown his chances, there are always opportunities for him to try again. Perhaps because of all this and his vulnerability, grown-up Shoya is instantly likable. It's almost hard to believe he's the same unlovable punk from elementary school. The audience roots for him to succeed because of how much he has softened in the time since then. Shoko is just as fragile a character, but due to different circumstances. As mentioned earlier, her deafness makes it difficult for her to communicate with others normally. Whenever she speaks, she does so in a strangled slur, which makes it difficult to understand what she's trying to say.
There was an awkward silence. His mother looked at him and waited. She shook her head and said, "You need to stop being so stubborn all the time." He had no intention of apologizing.
That's good.
Unfortunately, this also causes for heartbreaking situations, like this one.
The moon? It is pretty, isn't it?
Like Shoya, she is shown to be self-loathing. Rather than showing any anger toward her aggressors, she constantly apologizes for whatever misfortunes fall their way. In fact, she blames herself and her perceived shortcomings for all the bullying she endures for most of the early scenes of the movie. Just as Shoya grows to become a true friend, so too must Shoko grow to accept and appreciate herself for who she is. And herein lies the message for A Silent Voice, looking beyond a person's obvious differences and finding the beautiful soul inside. Such is the case with Shoko. Here are some other members of the cast. First, there is Yuzuru, a skilled photographer who is close to Shoko and very, very protective of her. Upon meeting Shoya, Yuzuru's first response is one of coldness and contempt, understandably so.
Listen, I think maybe you and I...
Shoko's my girlfriend, okay? If you're just here to make yourself feel better, you might as well leave.
In fact, Yuzuru takes a compromising picture of Shoya illegally jumping off a bridge, posting it on the internet, which gets him suspended from school for 1 week. Never mind that Shoya's reason is a helpful one. He is retrieving Shoko's notebook after she accidentally drops it into the river. As the story progresses, though, Yuzuru warms to him and becomes supportive of Shoya's efforts to become a better person.
She was trying to tell me something the other day, and I just could not understand what she was saying.
What exactly did she say to you?
The moon. It's an easy enough word, but her saying it didn't make any sense.
I bet she was so annoyed. Well, if you really want to know how she feels about you, then I suggest you just ask her out. If she says no, you'll have your answer.
I guess that you're right.
Then there is Tomohiro Nagatsuka, a short, pudgy fellow who becomes Shoya's first friend in years. Their relationship begins when Shoya gets him out of trouble with another bully.
Give it up, Fatso! I'm being robbed! Somebody help me!
Hey,
What?
do you want to borrow mine? It's over there.
Yeah? Thanks, man. You're a godsend.
After this, Tomohiro is unflinchingly loyal to Shoya, always ready to stand up for him at every opportunity.
What's your problem? My friend here just wants to see Miss Shoko, okay?
Where did you come from?
So stop being so stubborn and go get her!
But Tomohiro sometimes comes across as a little too obsessed with him, to the point where he gets annoyed when Shoya befriends other characters.
Hey, get your dirty paws off my Yasho! Who said you could touch him, huh?
Dude, I was just being friendly.
Well, go be friendly with someone else!
Nagatsuka, you really crack me up.
Yasho is my friend! I've got my eye on you! You better watch it!
Nonetheless, Tomohiro is a lovable character and supplies some much-needed comic relief to an otherwise emotionally harrowing story.
Now you and I is friends. It can be as simple as that, see? Friendship don't gotta do with no rules or qualifications, 'cause it's about something deeper. A bond, and you just can't break that. Capiche?
Miyoko Sahara is another sympathetic soul in a silent voice. She is the only girl in Shoko's elementary school to truly become friends with her. In fact, she goes out of her way to learn sign language.
Wow.
Unfortunately, this friendship doesn't last very long, as some of the other girls begin to make fun of Miyoko too. As a result, she stops coming to class. Luckily, Shoya provides an opportunity for the two to meet up again 5 years later.
I know I just kinda disappeared on you back then. Sorry about that, but I never stopped thinking about you, ever.
But there are some problematic characters in this story too, particularly Naoka Ueno, who also antagonizes Shoko. Unlike Shoya, however, she never learns her lesson and insists on blaming Shoko for Shoya's misfortunes. In fact, it's implied that she has a crush on Shoya, but she is unable to express her feelings. As such, Naoka gets increasingly jealous of his relationship with Shoko.
You gotta be kidding me. Hold on, wait a minute. Don't tell me you guys are actually going out.
And she's not afraid to let the poor girl know that she can't stand her in the least.
Who do you think you are, huh? You're a loser. A deaf loser. You sit there in your own little world and ignore everyone else around you. You're the most selfish person I know!
At many points in our lives, we have encountered people with personalities as varied as the ones displayed in this story. To find such people in a movie like this adds a certain authenticity that one wouldn't often find in, say, a fairy tale. And this is another one of the major triumphs of A Silent Voice. It only makes the story's ultimate resolution all the more emotionally resonant. How does one set out to conceive a story like this for a movie? While sometimes movies are inspired by books, A Silent Voice is one such production, although in its case, it's a bit of an unusual one. It's based on a graphic novel series, 7 volumes in total, with 62 chapters. Originally, the series was published as a standalone story in February 2011, but it proved so popular that it turned into a fully serialized tale in Weekly Shonen Magazine in August 2013. The series lasted until November 19, 2014, published by Kodansha. The graphic novels would be brought to the United States approximately 1 year after completing its initial run in Japan. The person who crafted this story is Miss Yoshitoki Oima. She was born on March 15, 1989, as the third daughter of a sign language interpreter mother, and she has an older sister and an older brother. It was because of her mother's work that she became inspired to write a silent voice, starting at the age of 18, with a bit of help from not only her mother, but her sister as well. She would go on to receive well-deserved accolades for her work, as you can see here from this chart. Miss Oima grew up in Ogaki, which is a city located in the northwestern area of Gifu, Japan. It is known for being the most centrally located city in the land of the rising sun. It's also known as the Water City on account of the quantity and purity of underground springs welling up at many points in the city. Coincidentally, Miss Oima chose to set a silent voice in this city, mainly because of her memories growing up there. Here's a picture of one of Ogaki's many places to visit. It's called the Four Seasons Plaza, Shiki no Hiroba in Japanese. This beautiful place is known for two particularly memorable landmarks, the Tunnel Falls and Midori Bridge. In a silent voice, Shoko is shown to be sitting beneath the Tunnel Falls for at least one scene, but most of the time she tends to be on the bridge itself, feeding pieces of bread to the koi fish swimming in the Suimon River. This circumstance is also what leads to the beginning of Shoya making a connection with Shoko. He purchases bread and joins her in feeding the fish. In fact, a good majority of their scenes take place on this bridge. Sometimes other characters join them too. As you can see, it's a gorgeous sight, with the cherry tree blossoms in the distance providing a particularly vibrant touch. Another location is the General Welfare Hall, which is the center for social services for all city citizens. It doubles as a recreational facility as well. It is in this place where sign language classes are held in a silent voice. Shoya encounters Shoko there for the first time since their last painful classroom confrontation 5 years before. This time, however, Shoya makes overtures of friendship by returning her notebook. He once cruelly threw this notebook into the school fountain and has carried it with him ever since. By offering it back to her, he aspires to make things right. There are numerous other areas in Ogaki which are depicted in a silent voice. I'm going to show you pictures of these places and compare them to their counterparts in the finished film. Sometimes a silent voice takes us to other spots outside of Ogaki as we follow Shoya and Shoko on their journey. Here's a look at some of them. By including such locations in the story, A Silent Voice becomes more than just a tale of reconciliation and redemption. It's also a tour around a beautiful region of Japan, which is another reason why animation fans are often drawn to anime, since there are many titles which set around such landmarks. But, for all of its richness and depth, A Silent Voice also posed a problem. How does one adapt a story 1,300 pages long into a 2-hour feature? Fortunately, scriptwriter Reiko Yoshida was up to the task. Miss Yoshida, born on December 31st, 1967, is no stranger to writing scripts for Japanese animation. Among her notable accomplishments include The Cat Returns, Genshiken, Romeo x Juliet, Liz and the Blue Bird, and Hokuzen. As you might expect, there are considerable differences between the graphic novel series and the film. Although it tells the same story for the most part, some plot elements are compressed, altered, or in some cases, omitted altogether. For instance, another character, class student representative Miki Kawai, is shown to be among the kids in Shoya's class who snickered alongside the others whenever Shoko was bullied. When the story progresses to high school, Miki wishes to be disassociated from that incident. In the film, however, she is shown to be kind to Shoko and not at all involved in the bullying. But she hasn't forgotten Shoya's past cruelty to this poor girl.
I really wanted to believe that you would actually change, Shoya. But you're still the same awful person you were in elementary school!
Can you just please calm down a second?
The graphic novel also addresses a question viewers are likely to have while watching the film. What happens to Miyoko after she stops coming to Shoya's class? Here's the answer. The novel reveals that she took most of her classes in the nurse's office. This is never mentioned in the movie. Shoya's teacher, Mr. Takeuchi, unflatteringly nicknamed as Four Eyes, has a bit more of an arc in the graphic novel too. In the film, he does little to call Shoya out for his attitude, until one scene where the principal comes to his class, informing everyone about Shoko being bullied, and particularly the damage to her hearing aids. Only then does the teacher take a stand.
This is a very serious matter, and the school does not take bullying lightly.
Shoya, stand up. We all know that it's you. I told you, stand up!
Yes, sir.
In the graphic novel, however, he acts, at least initially, more responsible, reprimanding Shoya for his misbehavior. As the bullying snowballs, however, he abandons this attitude and instead appears to be somewhat less strict and reproachful. But perhaps the most notable omission is a sub-story in which Tomohiro Nagatsuka commissions the cast to make a film for a contest. The shooting takes place at Shoya's old school, which naturally triggers his guilt even more, because it brings back painful memories for him. This plot point, which takes up a good portion of the graphic novel series, serves as a purpose for Shoya to reconnect with his past mistakes. It also fleshes out Shoya's old teacher, who has only a minor role in the film. Differences aside, however, the message of a silent voice in both works is still the same. The books provide the opportunity to know the characters a bit more, while the film provides a more streamlined, yet no less impactful interpretation. As someone who was introduced to this story in the form of this movie, and having only recently discovered the graphic novels, I can assure you that both are heartfelt, moving works in their own right. The success of A Silent Voice as a movie is due to the talented artists who collaborated on it. The studio who produced the picture is known as Kyoto Animation, or KyoAni for short. It was co-founded in 1981 by a married couple, Yoko and Hideaki Hata. The facility has produced works of stunning quality, which have struck chords with animation fans worldwide. Among their accomplishments are The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, Clannad, K-On!, Sound Euphonium, and Violent Evergarden. This studio is quite different from other animation facilities in Japan. For the most part, Japanese animators are often freelancers and usually underpaid. Kyoto Animation, on the other hand, provides its employees with salaries and trains them in-house. This has earned the company a lot of praise. Not only that, it has even provided a gender-balanced workforce, to the point where women are given opportunities to work in the industry, practices which unfortunately are not very common in Japan. One of these women is Miss Naoko Yamada, the director of A Silent Voice. She was born on November 28th in 1984 in Kyoto. She has had a passion for drawing since childhood. In fact, she would copy images from series such as Patlabor and Dragon Ball. She joined the studio sometime in the early 2000s, where her first job was as an in-betweener on the enormously popular Inuyasha. Eventually, she would go on to work as a key animator on another Kyoto Animation production, Air. But it wouldn't be until 2009 when Miss Yamada would make her debut as a director on the highly acclaimed slice-of-life show, K-On! Eventually, she would go on to direct another show, Tomako Market, in addition to movies like Tomako Love Story, as well as Liz and the Blue Bird. A Silent Voice could very well be her magnum opus. Miss Yamada considers herself a method director, in that she chooses to present her films as that of an examination of the characters' minds. A Silent Voice is a fine example of her style. What's fascinating about this director is how she chooses to present the story. For instance, let's take a look at the opening shot. It's a rather abstract way to start the movie. This same image appears at the end of the movie too, only this time it gets bigger and expands into a burst of light. It takes multiple viewings to truly comprehend what the point is behind this opening. Some viewers have speculated that this is a symbol for Shoya's journey out of the darkness of his soul into the light of redemption. In other words, a light at the end of the tunnel. But as is always the case, art is open to interpretation. One of the numerous techniques that Yamada uses is displayed in how she manages to lure viewers into the mind of Shoya, particularly when we see him among crowds. As mentioned earlier, he doesn't look at people, a point further emphasized by the numerous shots of cross marks over people's faces. This same aesthetic choice is also used in the graphic novel series, incidentally. But at other times, the camera literally shows us Shoya's point of view, particularly when we see him looking down and away from people. Silent Voice also features instances when Miss Yamada temporarily cuts away from the central action to show us brief stationary shots of beautiful imagery before transitioning us to the next scene. Here are two such examples.
I hate her. She's so weird.
Perhaps the most powerful and frightening moment in the film is a scene about 3/4 of the way through in which Shoko steps onto the railing of her balcony. Pay attention to how the scene plays. During that same scene, Shoya has a soliloquy, and we see his inner thoughts.
Please, God, if you give me one more ounce of strength, I won't run away from my problems anymore. Just do this one thing for me, please. Starting tomorrow, I'll look everyone in the eye. Starting tomorrow, I'll listen when people speak to me. Starting tomorrow, I'll be better. Shoko.
With choices as bold as these, A Silent Voice becomes more than just a compelling story. Miss Yamada's directorial style gives this movie a tilt toward art house film territory. It's rare to find animated productions which go the extra mile in presenting its subject, but this is one such feature. Further adding to the atmosphere of A Silent Voice is its use of sound. Composer Kensuke Ushio provides a haunting musical score to the movie, most of it performed on piano. Interestingly, Mr. Ushio had not worked on film scores all that much prior to this project, but director Naoko Yamada was familiar with his music long before she tapped him to work on A Silent Voice. At various points, the composer quotes a piece written by Johann Sebastian Bach, Invention No. 1 in C major. Then, of course, there are the voice actors who bring the characters to life. The English version in particular deserves a special mention because it features some truly outstanding work from everyone involved. A Silent Voice was dubbed by NYAV Post, a studio with locations in both New York and Los Angeles. This facility has dubbed numerous animated projects from Japanese to English, including Jungle Emperor Leo the Movie, Berserk, A Letter to Momo, Promare, Tokyo Godfathers, and Your Name. Their dubs are renowned for sincere performances and smooth, natural dialogue, and A Silent Voice is no exception. The cast consists of veteran voiceover artists, but this dub goes one step further and casts children for the flashback scenes at school, as well as a real-life deaf actress. Here are some of the members of this cast. Ryan Shanahan is the voice of Shoya as a boy, and as can be expected, his performance is as immature, impulsive, and mean-spirited as any juvenile bully. He has participated in numerous other dubs for NYAV Post, including Fireworks, Okozin, and Makia. This is his most unsympathetic role to date.
Come on, I'm not that bad. Don't you dare touch my stuff, you freak! There's that look again.
Veteran voice artist Robbie Damon plays the teenage Shoya, giving this much-changed character just the right amount of vulnerability and emotion.
I was wondering, Can me and you, Shoko, can we be friends?
The voice of Yuzuru is that of New York actress Kristen Sullivan, who provides this character with the sort of toughness and fragility as the role demands. Incidentally, this is her only anime role as of now.
What are we, a couple of strays? You doing this to feel better about yourself? Must be extra amusing to you because she's deaf, right? Yeah, you even went to the trouble to learn how to sign. Big deal. You think that suddenly makes you a hero or something? I still can't stand you.
11-year-old Katie Harvey, best known for her show-stealing performance in Your Name, makes a brief appearance as the voice of young Miyoko Sahara.
Excuse me. I'll do it. I can learn how to sign.
Teenage Miyoko is voiced by Melissa Hope, who has also appeared in numerous episodes of Pokémon.
You know, when we were in elementary school, I was way too scared to ride this. I was such a coward back then. But then, one day, I looked at it differently.
Alaska native Kira Buckland provides Nooka's voice, conveying this antagonistic character with casual bitterness and cruelty.
You're so clueless. Then you had to go run crying to the grown-ups. You got Shoya in trouble. And that's how he ended up losing every single one of his friends. You pretty much ruined everything for everyone. You get that, right?
But perhaps the real triumph of the dub is the voice of Shoko, deaf actress Lexi Cowden. Like her character, Lexi, too, was bullied as a child, and doing this role was like therapy for her. Her heartbreakingly effective performance has earned praise from both reviewers and audiences, and rightly so.
You're wrong! It's because I couldn't change, and that's why you fell. It's me. Everything is always my fault.
Shoko's Japanese voice actress, Soari Hayami, takes a different approach. Unlike her American counterpart, she is pretending to be deaf. It's a tough task for any actor, but a commendable effort all the same. If you think dubbing an anime from Japanese into English is simple, you should ask any of these people who worked on this film. It takes a lot of hard work, and it requires skillful direction to provide a believable performance while syncing to already animated mouth flaps like this. Fortunately, A Silent Voices dub benefits strongly from 4 people who are experienced in this. Stephanie Shea, who has also done voice work for numerous titles. Respected voice actor Michael Sinter-Nicholas, who also happens to be the founder of NYAV Post. Michael Schneider, who has also directed the dubs for Oko's Inn and Mirai. And last but not least, Amanda Wynn Lee, best known as Rei Ayanami from Neon Genesis Evangelion. The actress is no stranger to the subject of hearing-impaired individuals. Her son, Nicholas, affectionately nicknamed Noodles, was diagnosed with cancer as a baby. He underwent chemotherapy, but the process left him deaf. Amanda's own experience proved to be a valuable asset to the production of the dub, and she even gets to have a cameo at the beginning of the movie as the DHH liaison, Miss Kita.
Since we want to make it easier to communicate with Shoko, every single morning we're going to spend 3 minutes of class learning to sign.
There has been an ongoing debate by many, many fans on what is the best way to experience anime, in Japanese with subtitles or dubbed in English. The answer is ultimately a matter of taste. But in the case of A Silent Voice, I can personally state that dubs have come a long, long way since the early days of the anime industry. Furthermore, dubs which are obvious labors of love show that it is misleading to dismiss viewing in English as an inferior way of experiencing Japanese animation. A Silent Voice is one such dub. No matter how you choose to watch it, though, the film is a moving experience either way. A Silent Voice premiered in Japanese theaters on September 17th, 2016, opening number 2 at the box office, just behind Makoto Shinkai's Your Name. Mr. Shinkai praised A Silent Voice, hailing it as a fantastic piece of work and a polished and grand production, which he modestly said that he himself could not replicate. Audiences and critics expressed similar praise. The film would win numerous awards, including Best Animation Feature Film at the Japanese Movie Critics Awards, as well as the Tokyo Anime Award Festival. However, it took a considerably longer time for A Silent Voice to premiere internationally. The film would first be distributed in the United Kingdom by publisher All the Anime on October 30th, 2017. But it wouldn't be until February 2nd of 2018 when the dub would make a showing in American theaters, courtesy of the folks at Los Angeles-based 11 Arts Anime Studio. The film would finally be released on Blu-ray and DVD in America on April 2nd, 2019. A Silent Voice has consistently received praise from critics and viewers across the globe, with many hailing it as a modern classic of Japanese animation, and rightly so. The film was, according to Naoko Yamada, a very big and challenging project, not only for me, but also for Kyoto Animation. But the end result was worth it. It deserves to be known as one of the studio's best achievements. Which is why it is hard to believe that some of the staff who worked on this movie are no longer with us, all because of a recent tragedy. On July 18th, 2019, Kyoto Animation's Studio One building was set on fire. The resulting disaster destroyed much of the materials and computers in the studio. More heartbreakingly, at least 36 employees were killed. An additional 33 were injured. Fortunately, Miss Yamada was not among them. Never before had a massacre like this occurred at any animation studio. In fact, it's considered one of the deadliest in the land of the rising sun since the end of World War II. In response, fans and businesses in Japan and internationally raised the equivalent of more than $35 million to help the studio and its employees. It is unfortunate that a facility like Kyoto Animation has endured such a horrific incident, and so this panel is dedicated to the talented souls who have lost their lives. But their work still lives on today in the hearts of millions of viewers around the world. Bullying remains commonplace throughout the world and throughout time. I have my own memories of when I was bullied, especially in one of the first schools I attended. It's a very painful experience that is not easy to overcome, no matter what the circumstances. But sometimes people can do just that. Likewise, former bullies can change when they grow up. A Silent Voice is a beautiful testament to both statements, which is the primary reason why I highly recommend this movie. Whether you are familiar with anime or not, it's one of those films that would benefit anyone willing to listen. On that note, we've come to the end of our showcase. I hope you found it enjoyable as well as interesting, and most importantly, I hope I've encouraged you to check out this movie. It's still available on Blu-ray and DVD, and it's on Netflix for those of you who prefer streaming. However you choose to view this movie, there's a good chance that you'll be moved to tears as I was the first time I saw it. I have more panels coming up, and they'll premiere right here on Virtual Panel Theater. Keep your eye open for them. And I hope to present some of these panels in person at conventions when they start again. Until then, though, this is John Turner saying, thanks for watching, everybody. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.